Hello everyone and welcome back to Islands of Wanyama, episode 9. I'm yoyosmugglerr and it's great to have you guys back. So just starting off here with a time-lapse build. I know it's been a while since our last episode, but just didn't really have a lot of time within the past week or so. We had Thanksgiving going on, so if you're in the States, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. But yeah, just had some friends over and just really couldn't find a whole lot of time to sit down and actually play and get a solid gameplay in. There was points where I tried to sit down and record some stuff, but just wasn't really happening. I wasn't, didn't have enough time to actually sit down and get the creative juices flowing, and was just kind of trying to rush myself because I knew I didn't have that much time, and nothing I was building was really turning out well. So I just kind of put it on the back burner for a little bit, and decided I'd wait till I had enough time to actually sit down and do so. But yeah, was ready to get back into it once the holiday was over, and kind of happy with how everything has turned out for this episode. So we started on our second animal exhibit, of course, as you can tell by the title, and right now we're actually building the hard shelter for our pandas here. So this is going to be a building based off of the Temple of Heaven building in Beijing, China. So I really like the way this looks in real life. I've never seen it in real life, but they have the same building in Epcot for their Chinese pavilion, and I just have always thought that it looked really neat. Just the way that it's a circular pagoda. So I just really love the way that traditional Asian pagoda type thing or style of architecture looks, but in that circular fashion, it looks really awesome here. But yeah, really struggled with it though, so that's why I say I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. Just because if you look at it too closely, there are some pieces that kind of are sticking out and misplaced a little bit. It's just one of those things to where it with the whole dome technique, and there's just a lot of pieces going on. So it's just some of the stuff it's hard to hide in the dome. So since this was part of the animal's habitat, I was trying to make it look good from the outside as well as the inside. It winds up, there's some pieces that wind up sticking a little bit farther out from the inside of the building that I'd rather, more than I'd like them to be, but it is what it is, and we kind of move on from it, since you don't really see the inside of this building a whole lot unless you get like real deep down in there, and we'll go in the real-time portion. We'll look in the inside too, just to give you guys an idea. But other than that, we're never really going to see the inside of it, so it's something I had to kind of sacrifice there, though. But yeah, so as you can see in the background there, we got most of the pagoda done, and I was just working on the top layer there. Just basically, the trick to that was just having to create the 3 layers, the dome pieces all individually by themselves, and then kind of lining them up separately, and that kind of took a little bit of time, but was happy with how they eventually came out. But yeah, just clearing out the area now for the panda habitat, and we threw in the actual pagoda there for them. And so I went ahead and I went with a dugout type habitat here, just because the pagoda was just a little too tall if we were to keep it level on flat land there, and I just kind of wanted to give that viewpoint of the guests where they're looking down into the panda's habitat, just because I feel like just from the footage that I've been watching, just for like kind of just kind of get an idea of like panda's natural habitat and whatnot, it always feels like they're kind of canopied by a whole bunch of like bamboo and trees and stuff and whatnot. So I just kind of wanted to give, I feel like they're just always like deep down in like like a valley or something. I don't know, but I just kind of wanted to give that feeling from the guest perspective that they're deep down in a valley eating their bamboo or whatever. So I thought that looked pretty neat. So we went with that style here, and then like I said, it works good with the pagoda and lowering it just a little bit, so that way it's not as towering as it is, because it is quite tall. I went back and forth on a couple different variations. There's actually a lot of cut footage from this pagoda that I cut out just to try to make it shorter, but it just wasn't looking right, and so I went with the current version that we have now. But yeah, so now we're just working on the actual keeper building here. So this building is going to house a keeper hut that we're trying to fit in now. We go through a couple different iterations here. Cut out some footage as well, just because we kind of went back and forth on where to place these. Try to throw in a staff break room as well, because currently right now the closest one that we have to it is in our entryway, sort of in the port of entry over there. By our restaurant and whatnot, so it's a little bit of a walk from here. The idea is to have each one of these islands kind of have the necessities of all the necessary staff buildings. So you want your break rooms, and don't know if we're gonna need like vet surgery or anything like that, but just like some break rooms and some research facilities. Even though it's sandbox mode, we don't really need those. Just to try to keep it in the realism area. I just would like to have as many buildings as possible, just kind of make it look full as well. Yeah, so that's essentially the goals, that each area will have its own sort of like research center or whatever you want to call it. So I think we're going to add on to the current keeper building that we just built there. In the future, once we decide what we're going to do with other animal exhibits in the area, and then basically kind of have like some sort of center point with all of those staff facility buildings together. So what we're working on now, actually, I really love how this turned out. So this is something that the guests really don't see a whole lot, just depending on the zoo that you're at. But this is, I'm not sure if every zoo has this, but I've seen some pictures of it. But this is essentially, I don't know if there's a name for it, but it's an area to where the keepers can come out and sort of interact with the animals through a fence, so they're not actually entering the habitat, so it's not dangerous for the animal keepers. So they can actually come out here and they can do like checkups or something on it, and they can just kind of like stick their hands through this gate here. We use the electric fence. Yeah, we use the electric fence piece for that fencing between the actual habitat and the staff patio area here. I don't want it to be electric. I'm kind of against that kind of being electric, especially since the keepers and the animals are going to be right next to the fence. So we're just going to imagine that it's not electric, and basically just kind of act like it's a wiring or steel poles or something. We just didn't really have. We have some poles, like some steel poles in it. It's some metal poles, but I just wasn't really satisfied with the way that they looked. With the gap in between the poles, I just wasn't really happy with that. So I was like, I'm just gonna use the metal fence or the electric fence. It's not that big of a deal. It's I'm hoping that it doesn't actually electrocute our animals at any point. So that's the plan, is to not get them electrocuted. But yeah, we just throw in these iron beams just to give it more of a little of a realism feel, just based off of some of the reference photos that I've seen online here. But yeah, so I actually built a path from the keeper building as well to that fence. I don't necessarily know why they would walk out there, because there's not really anything for them to do out there. But I built a path out there, maybe in case they wander out there, maybe we'll get a glimpse of it and add a little bit more realism to it, and we can see them interact with something. I'm probably gonna try to throw something out there eventually, but just haven't figured out what yet. Just didn't want to spend too much time trying to, try to get them to come out there when there's really no reason for them to do so. But yeah, that's probably something that we'll come back to in the future. Maybe I'll throw in like some sort of, like I said, staff facility down there, or maybe some water treatments or something, just to get the mechanics to walk down there, or, just to get some movement down there to see what, get that little realism factor in. But yeah, so just working on this building, trying to add a little bit more detail to it. This building was a little tricky for me, just because I didn't really use a reference photo or anything like that. I was strictly just going basically off of the shape and everything that I liked and how it was working around the pagoda. I wanted to try to keep it as plain as possible and make it look as utilitarian as I could. And essentially, just, basically keep it plain. I didn't want the guests, I didn't want it to look really nice or anything like, well, I did, not that I don't want it to look gross, but I just didn't want it to look, fancy or draw attention to it, is what I'm trying to say, really. I just don't want the guests to try to focus on this building, because there are parts to where you can see it from the path, so it's not like we're trying to hide it completely, but it's just not something where, hey, focus on this. So we do, and we do throw some trees down later on and just kind of hide it up as much as we can. But yeah, just went ahead and threw that that thin brick line around, or the stone line around the building, just to give it a little bit more detail. But yeah, just try to keep it as plain as we possibly could, so that way it's not drawing too much attention. We just throw on some of these windows as well, and then we, as you saw earlier, we were working on that flower bed, just to give it a little bit more detail, give it a little bit more depth to it. I don't believe we throw in, you might see me throw in the plants in it, but we just throw some flowers and we throw some trees in there as well later on. But yeah, let's go ahead and we're going to actually move into working on the actual exhibit now. So we're going to go ahead and build one of these, I don't know if there's an actual term for it, I'm sure there is, but I can't think of what it is right now. But just one of these Chinese gates, or Chinese entry portal, I'm not sure, yeah, what you would call it. But yeah, just the traditional Chinese gate things here. So I wanted to try to get some architecture in the actual Pandas exhibit that they could not necessarily interact with, but walk through and whatnot. We're just placing some beams down here, just trying to get that iconic shape. Just going off a couple different reference images. We throw that top on there, and then I quickly realized, as soon as I placed it down, and I was like, no, this is going to be way too big. So we just kind of kept it on there for the moment, just to try to get some scale in there. And speaking of scale, if you're wondering why I got that whale down there, the weather vane whale, that's actually a good scaling model for peep size. So that's actually, so when you place the whale down on the ground, it's actually the same height as an adult peep in the game. So that just kind of gives you a reference for scale and how much you're building and whatnot. And it also gives me an idea of can the pandas walk through this or not? Because ultimately that's what I would like for it to happen. But yeah, so we raised this, we raised the top of that piece up because I knew I wasn't going to use it, but I kind of wanted to keep that same curve going along the bottom of that bottom piece there, but it wasn't really working with, the pieces weren't curving as much as I would have liked them to. They were just a little bit too big to curve as quickly as I wanted them to. Those pieces, I believe, are 2 meters long in the game, and I don't believe we have a 1-piece meter of that sort. Of this kind of style of beam that I was going for, so we just kind of had to make do with what we had, and just throwing those little dragon pieces on there. I believe they're dragon pieces. They kind of look like fish to it, depending on the angles that you're looking at. So I'm not exactly sure the name, but just throwing those on there just for some more detail as well, just to break up. Try to give it a little bit of our own flair. Try to throw in some lanterns as well, and they just weren't really fitting as much as I would like them to have. But we actually wind up going with these paper lanterns in the end, and I really like how these turned out. So we're just going to throw some poles in there just to kind of give it that realism effect of them hanging and whatnot. Trying to make sure that they actually look like they're attached to something and not just floating down next to some wood. But yeah, so there it is. That's pretty much done in the background. I did add a little bit of extra detail to it off camera, so we added like a second layer to the whole frame itself, just kind of giving it some more depth to it. But now we're just working on the terrain for the pandas and just making sure that they're happy with the type of terrain that they have and the amount of terrain type, I should say. And then we threw in some water as well. Pandas aren't necessarily interested in swimming, apparently. That's at least according to the game. They don't necessarily need any sort of water. That's what you can see over the right side of the screen there, where it's under navigable area. So they don't necessarily need any sort of climbing or water structure, or climbing structures or water, such as like lakes or rivers or anything like that. But I always feel like it looks a little weird if we don't throw in some sort of water feature for them, for those bigger animals. But yeah, essentially just making sure that they have enough terrain, they're happy with their terrain, and then we throw down some sort of walking paths as well, so try to make the ground look a little worn in where they would walk, just give it a little bit more of that realism effect there. And then essentially what's going to happen here is we're going to start working on our planting for our exhibit. So yeah, I'm going full on with this speed build here. So I know this is one of the first times I think I recorded almost just about everything for our exhibits here. But we throw a tree in there just to kind of give it a little bit more life and a little bit more green inside the building there. Just try to make it a little bit more homey for the pandas. And we throw in one of these, not custom built, but already these pre-made structures that are in the game. Just not a huge fan of building custom climbing structures. That may be something I work on in the future, but for the most part, I just really can't be bothered with them at the moment. I've seen some really cool. There's some people out there that do really cool climbing structures, but I just don't have the talent to do so. Just because there's a lot of singular pieces that are going on, and by time I am getting to the actual climbing structure part of the habitat, I'm kind of done with the habitat just because I've already probably spent so much time working on either the building, the structures, or whatever it may be. But yeah, so we just kind of threw that down there. And another reason why I'm not a huge fan of making custom structures at the moment too is because the animals can get a little wonky when they climb on stuff, depending on how they're built. So that I think that part of the game still needs a little bit, that needs to be ironed out still just a little bit. So just trying to keep it as simple as possible for the climbing structures. And especially, like I said earlier, the pandas don't necessarily need climbing structures according to this game. I know they climb from what I've read and what I've looked into, I know that they climb just a little bit in the real world. They're essentially very lazy animals, but I kind of wanted to give them that climbing option in case they wanted to do so. But yeah, so now like I said, we're just working on planting, making sure they're happy with their the plants and the type of plants that they have and the amount of coverage that they have as well. So the area that I was just working on, that little cove back there, they can actually walk all the way back there. So like I said, they're pretty lazy animals, and they're also they can be very shy as well. So I wanted to try to give them a little area to where they can kind of go off into the back there and just kind of I put in a feeding station as well in the back. But just, kind of a little area that they can go back and just kind of eat and chill out and get away from the guests if they wanted to be outside, but not necessarily inside their habitat. So it looks really cool there in the end. We're just trying to, like I said, make this little area a little bit more nicer on the inside, so that way it doesn't look as bare. Not sure if you noticed or not, but we do have some, I believe it might be concrete or pavement or some sort right there in the inside, just to kind of make it a little bit easier for the staff to hose down at the end of the night. A lot of these animal exhibits in real life have a lot of concrete, and they're very utilitarian, very easy to clean. So just trying to give it that little bit of realism aspect, but also still want to make it look nice. I don't believe the animals in real life mind it all that much. But if we can, I'd like to try to stay away from the concrete / pavement, whatever you want to call it, for the most part in the game. Just because I think it looks a little bit better if we do the actual land itself. Just because I think it makes it look a little bit nicer for the animals, like we care about them more or something. But yeah, so just kind of one of those realism touches that I wanted to throw in there. But yeah, that's about going to do it, guys, for the time lapse. So I'll leave you with this last minute or so of me finishing up the foliage, and it's a little bit of a jump to the real time. So I'll leave you with this, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Alright guys, and here we are with our almost finished panda habitat. So we're on the Asian bridge right now that connects the entry island to the Asian island. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of tippy-toe our way through here. So let's start on the left here actually. So you may recognize that we actually extended this barrier out for the red panda habitat just to kind of keep it more flush for the bridge here. So still got some work to do over here. As you can see, this is still completely empty. So that's probably going to be something that we tackle on our next episode, just kind of one of those things that I've been putting off. But yeah, so we'll walk up here, and we got this little awesome welcome type garden plaza area thing here that kind of gives you an idea of, the area that you're in. So really love these panda statues. They're so freaking cute. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but I got the ambient sound speakers on, and it's set to the Asian rainforest, and it's quite loud, so we may need to get rid of those. But yeah, really love how this turns out. I love how this kind of signage turns out, and this bamboo right behind it. It kind of hides that that temple right behind it. It kind of gives you, some you're kind of intrigued as like, oh, what's that? Let's go walk up and see, get a better view of it. So you can come around here and you can actually look down in. So that's going to be your first point of viewing area for the pandas. That is if they ever come out of their little building here. They are a big fan of the hard shelter. So you can see right there. Nope, that's not a panda. That's the keeper filling up the bamboo. So maybe they'll get up and go get some bamboo. So that's the only problem with this habitat, is that they are addicted to the hard shelter there. So it's hard to get them to come out. So you may not see the pandas when you come here. But yeah, so I was actually I remembered to put in some educational boards this time around. I still have not put any of those in, so we need to come over here and put one in for the red panda, and we need to throw some in for the flamingos over there as well. But yeah, so we went ahead and threw that in finally. Oh, there we go. There's our panda. So we got one male and one female in there now. Hopefully they'll mate soon. But yeah, we went ahead and did this custom Asian fencing all around as well. It's nothing special. It's nothing really custom. It's just the two Asian fences stacked on top of each other. Just kind of wanted to give it a little bit different variation from the wood over here. And that's something I may go back and change as well in the future. But yeah, we got some benches as well as a trash can. Kind of sit down and watch as well. So yeah, so we'll come over here and we'll check on the other side. Got some more benches of the other Asian theme, some more trash cans, and this is something it's hard for me to do, but I went ahead and left this edging of the path done, just because a lot of zoos, the reference images and Google Maps that I'm seeing, a lot of zoos just have like these soft edges for the pathing. I know it's a little, to me, it still looks a little weird, mostly probably because the brick is just kind of like cut off like that. It's kind of like a hard cut almost. But for the most part, a lot of zoos just have this kind of runoff thing, and it's a little weird for me because I'm more of a theme park guy. So with theme parks, they rarely have this kind of thing. They always sort of have some sort of curbing or something like that, unless it's some sort of like a lower tier theme park. But for the most part, they usually have some sort of curbing or fencing. So it's kind of weird for me to just kind of leave this grassy patch open. But we're gonna go ahead and do that. Just still wanted to get some foliage in there as well. As well as some rock work, so we kind of get some rock work behind these benches, so I guess we'll sit here and they can technically walk over here, but it's kind of placed here just to kind of give them the idea that maybe we shouldn't go past the rock work here, and hopefully that continues over here with the planting as well. But yeah, so this over here is empty for now. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with that area, but wanted to block all this off with foliage, since it's kind of away from the fencing, so that way whenever we do put something over here, whether it be an animal exhibit or a food court or whatever it may be, it draws your attention more towards this way, instead of still looking at the animal exhibit here. But let's go ahead and we'll walk around, and then you can kind of see the archway that we worked on. See how it's got that second layer, just to give it that little bit more depth to it here. It just provides you another viewing point for the pandas if they actually do ever come out. So I know with the game coding, the guests aren't necessarily going to go to every single viewing area with the panda, um, so it's not necessarily something that I'm concerned about. But in regards to the real life, uh, keeping with that realism, you would want to have multiple viewing points in this, just because this exhibit is so obstructed by all the foliage, and we got this canyon right here as well, so you can see different parts of the exhibit from different areas. So that's why I really like this exhibit layout. But it also gives the panda uh, room to, or places I should say, to actually hide from the guests if they wanted to do so. So yeah, we'll continue over here. So it's a little bare. Haven't even started on this area for the most part, just because I want to try to get an idea of where we want to go through over here, whether that be a food court or another animal exhibit. But I did get this started. I kind of want this to be another viewing platform as well, just to give you that look down into the actual into the little lake pool thing here. I know I said that the pandas didn't require any sort of uh, water area, but they actually went down and they interacted with it. They drank and they kind of paddled in it for a little bit while I was working on some of the detail and stuff, and just kind of make sure everything was right off camera. Still need to finish this up here as well, some foliage, and that's just another one of those things. Once we figure out what I want to do over here, I want to try to tie this area into that also. Um, but yeah, really happy with this for the most part. Back there is our little area that I was talking about, that they have the little feeder thing. We'll check that out in a moment. But really happy with how all this turned out. So we have some Asian foliage in here. It's all temperate foliage. So that was one of the things that I tried to look up, but I wasn't really sure. I'm not a huge plant guy or foliage guy, so I struggle with that still. So I don't know if I was even using Google correctly on what to look for, but I was trying to see if these type of plants would still grow in North America. So we're still technically in a temperate climate within the game, so from my logic, they should grow, with it just being that type of climate, but I'm not 100% sure on how that, how the whole planting system works. So definitely a question for somebody else, not me. But I figured since it was temperate, we're going to go ahead and fill these in regardless and just kind of roll with the punches and see how that works. So we got a nice mixture of Asian temperate planting as well as North American planting in here as well. And the pandas were quite happy with planting. So very happy with how the foliage turned out in the game or in the habitat. But let's go ahead and we'll walk over here. So check out our little keeper habitat here. So there isn't a whole lot of detail inside of it, but just wanted to kind of give you that peep view. So we can come over here and walk down the stairs. You got a whole lot of plants walking or peeking through, so just ignore that. But this is our little keeper hut here. Always got to have one keeper hut per exhibit. That's just kind of my rule of thumb, just to make it a little bit easier for the keepers. But then you can walk out here. We have our whoa. we gotta fix that. That's not good. All right. But anyways, we got our little patio area that we had seen in the time lapse, and then I put these doors in. These don't go anywhere, so you can just kind of see they clip through and they don't have anything going on. This may be one of those things where I add in a keeper hut or a water facility or a power facility just to get some staff members walking down here just to interact with it. But I went ahead and threw up these. I'm forgetting the name of them. The educational boards. Just for like if we were to have some sort of like visitors down here. Like I know that some of the zoos do like really cool. Like you make a donation to the zoo and you get really cool like guests or guest/animal interactions. So you get interaction with the animals. So I feel like this would be what if you paid a lot of money to come down and see the pandas. You could come down. They'd give you some facts on the pandas or what to do. How to approach the animals or whatever. Unfortunately, we just had that one picture of the panda, so I just went ahead and did the double for that. But yeah, so this is the little patio area that they would be able to essentially come up to. So once again, this is electric fencing in game, so you can kind of see those coils right there. I tried to hide them with these little beams right here, but they were still sticking out, and I just didn't like the spacing in between them. I was trying to get like a decent spacing so it looked even, and like they had a purpose for being there. But I just couldn't line up the beams and these little coils correctly. Placed the fence down a couple different times to try to get them to swap locations or try to get more of an even layout, but just wasn't happening. So I was like, they're just going to show. So, but yeah, we got a water bowl here, so the pandas will come up and they'll drink from it. I haven't seen them come up to it yet because they mostly just go to the lake. We also got a whole we got like I think 3 water bowls and like 4 feeding trays as well. Um, but yeah, let's go back and we'll jump back in, or real quick before we get back in here. So these little 3 switches and like this electrical core box and the slide here. This is something that I got off the Bro Nation Discord. I can't remember who I saw do this, but it looks really awesome. It just kind of gives it that little bit more detail. I kind of put them there to act like, I don't know what the original poster had intended them for, but I just kind of thought they looked really really good next to the door, kind of like a card reader or something. So that's what we're going to use it for, like an ID badge scanner or something. Just give it a little bit more detail and more realism effects. So went ahead and threw those on. But let's go ahead and we'll walk through here, and we'll walk into the actual habitat. So you can see I kind of put these double doors here just for like safety precautions and a little bit more realism there. So I want to try to do that more. I know I didn't do that with the red panda habitat, but we'll have to go back and edit that a little bit more, so we can have that. But yeah, so here we go. So little messy. We still need to clean up some of the edges in here. Didn't put a whole lot of time on the inside. But yeah, so here's another one of their water bowls that we have, and there's our 2 pandas. So they're just chilling right now. I kind of gave them this little water cooler. The temperature, or not water cooler, but just air cooler, I guess is what you call it. Just sunk it in that rock there. They're happy with the temperature without this, but I just kind of wanted to give that as a, hey, if you want to cool down, you can come over here. It's a lot colder. So we may need to move some of those outside. Actually, maybe that'll get them to come out a little bit more. For like I said, for the most part, they just kind of chill in here. But yeah, you saw me at the end of the time lapse throw in another one of these custom, or not custom, pre-made climbing habitat things. It's the same one as we have outside right over there, but I just took the 2 top layers off just to give it a little bit different variation, and just kind of give this indoor part some height variation as well. So they do climb up there and they kind of sleep. They don't climb up on the top 2 layers though out here, so that's why I went ahead and took them off on the inside. Gave them their enrichment items. I haven't seen them mess with this. However, I have seen them mess with this. So I'm excited to see them actually mess with these chimes eventually. Yeah, another food plate here, and then we'll go out here, because I think one of our, yep, there he is. He's walking out here. There we go. It's rare to see him out. But yeah, so climbing up there, they can climb just about everywhere, or walk everywhere, I should say. And we'll come back here, and this is our little feeding enrichment as well. So food will come out here. It's really awesome. Really love the tire details on it as well. So yeah, just very lush, very overgrown back here, unkempt. Just wanted a place for the panda to come and chill out, so they don't really get any sort of human interaction. Excuse me. There's fencing here, but there's not a path right next to this fence, so shouldn't be that big of an issue. The closest that they come into contact with is right on the other side, is the habitat door there. But you should be able to see down through there, so no big deal. But yeah, we'll zoom over here, and we got our little ice block enrichment as well. I sunk the spawner somewhere in this hill, so when you place it down, it kind of rolls down in here, and it'll just float, and they'll when they come in here, they knock it around, kind of play with it a little bit. It's really awesome. Alright, where did our panda go? Did they already go back in? Alright, well, let's go ahead and we'll walk up through this gate here. Do a quick zoom around, so more feeding trays and more water bowl trays as well. A little bit more enrichment also for them. Yep, looks like they definitely, he or she definitely went back in already. It didn't last very long. Oh gosh, but they can walk down through this little carved out train tunnel as well, just to give them some separation. Just because of what I've heard is that, like I said, the pandas are can be very shy, and so sometimes they want their own space, so I decided to kind of give this little, that's another reason why this whole thing is here, not only to prevent them from being able to climb up, but also just give them some separation from the others if they wanted to come over here and just get some space. But yeah, so that's basically our panda habitat for it. Yep, they're just sleeping and they just kind of relax, and so definitely think I may have to alter the inside here so maybe they come out a little bit more. But I'm happy they like the exhibit regardless. Like I said, we'll have to fix that up there as well. But yeah, actually, let's jump back up here real quick. So you can kind of see, like I was talking about in the time lapse, you can kind of see the building back there from our first viewing point, but a lot of it's kind of hidden by that flower bed over there. And then I put those trees up there as well in case we put some more buildings. Those trees will hide those buildings as well. So yeah, so it's, like I said, it's something you can see, but it's not necessarily something that you would draw. You would get attention, that would draw your attention. So it does its job, and I think it looks pretty nice there. So this area is still bare for now, just because I'm not sure what I want to do with this area. We still need to do some touching up, as well as here. Let's get out of touch a cam for a moment. Just kind of give you guys an overview. But yeah, so definitely need to touch this area up. I want to try to tie this all in together, so that's why both of these parts are a little blank right now. I'm not sure what direction we're going to go next. Like I said, we have a whole bunch of small things just to tidy up over here. I still need to light this whole area, and then hide this backstage as well. This whole lake has become a big pain in the butt, and that's another reason why I haven't really finished the bridge or finished this area. Just because, so my goal was to not have this as like the end of this little area. I kind of wanted it to run off in some sort of like water treatment facility or something back here. But unfortunately, with the way that this, I think there's some sort of like bug or something with the water, because when I come in here and I deselect the water, even though I haven't really messed with it, I can't place the water back in. It says that it's obstructed. I haven't changed anything about the terrain or anything like that. I can't place it at all. So it's a little frustrating, so I have to hit Control Z, and that brings the water back, but it boxes up all my animals, so we'll unbox all of them real quick there. But yeah, so what that means is that I can't edit this area over here, which is extremely frustrating because I'm not happy with the way that looks. So that means I have to either redo the whole lake area, or we just have to deal with this. And I think we're just going to have to deal with it. So we're going to have to dress this up a little bit nicer. I think I may add like a second layer of water or something up here and turn it into some sort of like waterfall or something. I'm not 100% sure. The problem is that I still need to add more little nooks like that in between islands or in between areas to get that island effect. So yeah, it's one of those things we're gonna have to cross that bridge when we get to it. No pun intended. But yeah, just a lot of little bitty things to tie up here. The amount of flamingos that I have in this exhibit is absolutely insane. Like, what in the heck is going on here? Are there? Yeah, it's so low. So we have 67 flamingos. That's just the adults, so who knows how many child flamingos? I don't know the name for the we have, but probably need to get rid of some of these. I can't believe that. I mean, they're happy with them, but just looks like a lot going on. So we'll probably get rid of some of those in a little bit. I feel like I've been neglecting this area for a little bit now. But yeah, so that's basically our update for our Asian area and our panda exhibit. Very happy with how it turned out so far. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up this episode, guys. So that was a little bit of a long one. So thank you very much for staying if you made it all the way through. There's a lot to cover just because I had, it's been a while since my last videos, so I wanted to make sure that I was covering everything and getting everything back up to speed here. I don't know if I'm going to have a scheduled uploading time just because I can't seem to get a rhythm down. I was going strong there for the first 2 weeks, and then it just was kind of hit or miss with life going on and the holidays going on, and we got more holidays coming up, so I'm not going to commit to anything or guarantee anything. Just kind of, getting them uploaded as soon as I can, whenever I have time to play. That's basically it. I'm going to try to upload them as much as I can, just because I know YouTube's algorithm can be a little tricky if you're not uploading enough. But with that being said, like I said, this is going to wrap up the episode for you guys, and hopefully we'll get out a new episode here in the near future. But go ahead and be sure to leave a like and a comment, and let me know if you enjoyed something or if you didn't enjoy something. And of course, subscribe for more Planet Zoo content in the near future. Take care, guys. See you soon.